Patrick from Arlington, Virginia. Patrick, say hello to Dr. Alan Keyes.
Hey, Dr. Keyes, how are you tonight?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. I've been following you since 1996 when your first presidential run, and you were running on what you call the national sales tax. So you brought to the forefront the fair tax, as it's now being called.
That's right.
And I covered you during college. It was very good to have you on the show, and wanted to thank Stan as well. I think it's a great format for conservatives to come together and talk about some of the issues of the day. What I really wanted to talk about today is the financial war that's happening in the country. And I think that the liberals have a systematic approach in the destruction of this economy. And it starts, for me, it started back in the 80s when we were fighting housing. And we've seen where Fannie and Freddie have taken, what was it called, Alan, the Community Reinvestment Act?
Mm-hmm.
We've seen how this has evolved into 50% of all loans being subprime, and what it's done to the market. Also healthcare and some other facets. But really, I'm not going to go off on a tangent about Afghanistan and Iraq. I think we need permanent bases there for stability reasons. But, with the healthcare at the forefront of America's attention, I think it's time that we nail each and every one of these liberal platforms and call them out for what they are. I mean, it's very easy to say how Fannie and Freddie have ruined our economy, and now they want to do the same with healthcare.
Oh, no, I think that's exactly correct. And the problem has been throughout that these leftists will come forward. They make all kinds of promises that sound really nice. We're going to do this and do that and pay for this and pay for that. It's a free ride for everybody if you just elect us. And that the end result is then devastating for the economic prospects of the country. I think that what we need is a dose of good, solid, clear, plain, honest leadership. Look people in the eye. Make it clear that there's not only no free lunch, there's no free breakfast, there's no free dinner, there's no free housing, there's no free health care, there's no free anything when you're dealing with these material things. We've got to be clear. We've got to be disciplined. We've got to be a people willing to work for its future. And if we are, we have a chance of turning things around. And that means you've got to utterly reject the socialist path because it's based upon a premise that I think intentionally seeks to bankrupt economic systems that are not based upon total party and government control.
And
they
Stan,
seek to provoke a crisis.
Stan, I have a question that I'd like you to comment on, and Dr. Keyes as well. Now, with this Tea Party movement that we're all very excited about, I've started reading our Constitution. And what the liberals time and time again dismiss is the pursuit of happiness. So, in other words, they say housing's a right, healthcare is a right, when actually it's a pursuit. The Constitution does not have healthcare in it. You can go to the 10th Amendment and read where any power not addressed by the Constitution falls to the state or the people. I wonder why Republicans isn't bringing up that a Constitution amendment, such as health care would be, doesn't require a 2/3 vote.
They don't bring it up because they really don't believe in that. They are simply less overt, less aggressive versions of the liberal and leftist and socialists that they profess to oppose for partisan reasons, but actually don't. Here's Mitt Romney, who actually put in place a system in Massachusetts that has all the features the Republicans have been fighting to prevent, supposedly, in Obamacare. They've been fighting to prevent public funding of abortion, fighting to prevent the public option, and so forth. So there it is in Romneycare. And we're supposed to believe that a man who sponsored socialism in his home state is now just thinking that it's going to destroy the future of America if we go down that road. Funny, this thought only occurred to him now that it serves his political opportunism. You look at politicians like this, and you got to say to yourself, no, don't follow such people. It doesn't make any sense because they are not, in fact, acting on the basis of constitutional principle, on the basis of respect for the material conditions that will preserve our liberty. And they're also not, I'm afraid, acting on an understanding of our rights that sees the truth. You have the right to do what will help to preserve and enhance your life and take care of your family and meet your other basic responsibility to yourself, to your family, to your community, to your God. You know what you don't have the right to? You don't have the right to somebody else's work. You don't have the right to their labor. You don't have the right to control their careers and dictate what they will be paid and so forth and so on. That you don't have the right to do. And when somebody comes forward, whether it's at state level or at the national level, and starts saying, we're going to take over the healthcare system, dictate the terms on which the doctors and nurses and others are going to have to work, the kind of approaches that have been taken, whether it's in Canada, Great Britain, or elsewhere, these approaches actually take rights, throw them right down the toilet, and substitute for them a sense of government prerogative. So long as you claim to be serving a good goal, you can force anything you want down the throats of people who are then going to be subject to what amounts to involuntary servitude.
Alan, let me ask you to comment on what they're doing in Virginia. The Virginia legislature is going to pass legislation that says citizens cannot be required to have medical insurance.
That's right. And
That's
they're
right.
also, McDonnell is actually taking a stance to move Virginia to not have to pay taxes to fund any universal health care, too.
Well, I hope that we will see that kind of resolve coming out of many of the states. As I tell people, I know that there's this strange understanding that's developed in some quarters that in asserting your rights, you must sit back, you must let yourself be abused and despoiled of your rights, and then you must pray that some leftist liberal judge is going to see the light and decide to follow a constitution that they've been ripping up and throwing away for decades.
That's
this
right.
Is silly.
And Dan, will it take the right, the conservatives, to start filing lawsuits, federal lawsuits about, what's in the Constitution? It seems pretty clear to me, as a layman, just a student of the Constitution, just reading the Constitution. Would it take, us to adopt the leftist
Tactic?
format or scheme and
Pat,
start filing lawsuits to block it?
Pat, I think that, in fact, people like McDonnell and others are actually going down a path that, how can I put it, takes a position that is actually more consonant with what I believe the founders understood to be right. The first thing you do is not let your rights be taken away and then sue in court. The first thing you do is stand on your rights.
Right.
And make it clear, no, you're telling me I have to do X. The Constitution says you can't tell me to do that. Therefore, we won't. And I think it's perfectly reasonable for governor, legislatures at the state level to stand on their clear constitutional rights. Now, you might say, well, Alan, we're going to end up in court anyway. But you would end up in court in a position where you haven't lost possession in the first place of those rights. You are still seeking to exercise them, but you're also doing it in a way that will engage the allegiance and attention of the people whose rights are being threatened. I think if you take the route of statesmanship, you take the route that seeks to defend the common good and common rights of the people of your state, as McDonnell is doing, then you're going to engage their understanding and their allegiance in a way that will help to educate and will also help to shape the political environment. Because if this is going to be resolved by ultimately means that remain within the constitutional framework, then it's going to require a solid political resolve on the part of the people so that they will cease to elect chief executives who then put judges on the bench who are willing to shred the Constitution and throw it down the toilet.